2016 is dead and gone, and with it passes the greatest year in the history of the world in terms of butthurt. That's right, I'm calling it the year of peak butthurt. You've heard about peak oil, let's talk about peak butthurt. Certainly, I think the intensity of butthurt and the quantity of butthurt has reached its zenith in 2016. If you happen to own stock in a company that produces hemorrhoid medication like Johnson & Johnson, undoubtedly you saw your stock prices soar. But I'm here to tell you it's time to sell, because the thing about a peak is that it goes down on the other side. We're only going to go down from here. And I'd like to give you a little bit of a review of the massive amount of butthurt that we've seen this year. Like Sargon of Akkad does This Year in Stupid, I'd like to give you This Year in Butthurt to describe our year of peak butthurt. Let's start with the biggest one on this channel, which was Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, this movie actually came out in 2015. However, the massive amount of butthurt that I experienced was really in about January 2016, about the time when my review came out and a bunch of other reviews on YouTube started to come out that really tore this movie to pieces and said it wasn't the movie that everyone thought it was. Now, of course, I spent 30-odd minutes breaking down all the things in the movie that weren't good, and I spent actually more than one video breaking down all the things in the movie that weren't good. But of course, the response to that was wave after wave of Star Wars fanboys drifting through to say I only didn't like the movie because I was a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot. 5 magical words that you'll see played a very big part in 2016. However, butthurt for me, I'm like the rocks and the waves break upon me in terms of butthurt. Butthurt doesn't faze me that much. In fact, it can only really make me stronger. So the butthurt didn't affect me that much, but I could tell you, if you really want to attract butthurt fanboys, talk about Star Wars. For whatever reason, it's packed with them. People that are so upset that you didn't like a movie that they liked that they threatened to kill you. Yes, I did get death threats over my Star Wars Force Awakens video, and I'm not joking about that. Let's move on, though. It wasn't just about Star Wars this year. I gained a lot of subscribers from that Star Wars video, and I really appreciate you joining me on that. There was another movie that had a lot of people get butthurt, and that was Ghostbusters. Now, the surface thing is to say, oh, the nerds were a little butthurt that they made a Ghostbusters movie that featured an all-female cast, and they're sexist, racist, homophobic, xenophobic bigots that didn't want to see their classic heroes remade as women. However, that's the surface mainstream media narrative. The reason I didn't want to see the movie is that it had none of the original personalities who created Star Wars creating this one. So no Harold Ramis, no Dan Aykroyd writing it and like creating the story or anything. This was just like to me, a studio cash grab to try to get some money from the Ghostbusters name, the Ghostbusters franchise. And of course, the big butthurt backlash to all the people saying they don't want to see Ghostbusters is that they were racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic bigots. That was the only reason that they didn't want to see them, that there was a bunch of women and that one of them was black. That's why these nerds didn't want to see the movie. It had nothing to do with the fact that they had maybe some legitimate complaints or legitimate reservations about why they wanted to see the movie. In fact, there was a huge Twitter scandal involving Leslie Jones here, in which Milo Yiannopoulos, our gay British savior, I suppose, if you happen to be sharing his point of view, he got kicked off of Twitter because he trolled Leslie Jones a little bit, and then of course 4chan picked up on it and began to spam her profile with pictures of gorillas and things like that. And how did Twitter respond to this butthurt? First major butthurt event of 2016, one of the biggest ones, but not the biggest. The biggest we'll get to at the end. They kicked the racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, somehow bigoted Milo Yiannopoulos. They kicked him right off of Twitter. They unleashed the butthurt on him, and they kicked him off their social media platform for the raid that 4chan did. Now, of course, it didn't have the effect that they wished for it to have, because Milo Yiannopoulos just recently got a $250,000 advance, I believe, from Simon & Schuster for a book that's now on pre-order on Amazon, and it's either number 1 or number 2. So they've only really created a huge amount of success by making him a controversial, like martyr-like figure for conservatives. So the butthurt, of course, this is the real, I guess, maybe message of butthurt for 2016, is that part of peak butthurt is that it's only going to become less effective. And so it ended up having the opposite effect of what people wanted with the racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigoted Milo Yiannopoulos. Next thing that there was a lot of butthurt about was Star Trek fan fiction. Axanar came into the mainstream. People started talking about Axanar more. Axanar was a big budget fan film, $1 million budget, to make a really high production Star Trek fan film about the Romulan-Terran War. They came out with a prelude to Axanar, which looked really good, got a lot of fans excited. And then CBS and Paramount shut them down. And they haven't been officially shut down yet, but they basically had engaged in a lawsuit to stop Axanar from being made, because they were very, here's the way the narrative goes. They were very butthurt about a really high production fan film that could take away, make their movies look bad. So it was a massive, butthurt thing. However, I think there's a lot more to that, and I talked about it in those videos. There was a lot of fans that were upset about Axanar in general. They thought it was going to be vaporware, and as of January 2017, it does appear to be vaporware, especially when a bunch of people dropped in to back a Kickstarter that there's probably not going to be any product from. That means that $1 million in Kickstarter funds is just basically going to make a studio for the guys who really wanted to cash in on that fan love, which people should have a legitimate reason to be upset about. So there's more than one dimension to that, of course. And then following that entire ordeal, CBS and Paramount released the most draconic set of guidelines for making fan fiction that basically would make it so nobody could make any good fan fiction. Certainly, I'm going to write the narrative that is an unleashing of butthurt, major butthurt event from those people. Next big piece of butthurt, that's Tay. Dear little sweet Tay on Twitter, the Microsoft AI Twitter bot that they unleashed on Twitter and programmed to respond to other people's tweets and learn to be a classic American teenager. And so what happened is that 4chan once again got wind of this and began to troll her on Twitter with pictures of Hitler, all sorts of racist sayings, and through that interaction, the AI became programmed to be racist. Dozens of people feigned defense. The butthurt exploded that somebody could be programmed to be racist, or like a little stupid little AI could be programmed to say racist things. So they killed Tay. They took her off Twitter, and I think she's actually back now. But it was certainly a major butthurt event as I remember it. Let's talk about the biggest one in video games this year: the butthurt surrounding a butt. This was like a victory pose for Overwatch. Or whatever they call it, but basically, you got a shot of this character, Tracer, from behind, and part of somebody's body behind their eyes and face is their buttocks, as well as their back of their hands, the back of their legs, but especially their buttocks. And apparently, this pose, point it that way. This pose over there happened to feature the butt far too prominently. People feigned defense. They said, what about my daughter, who will think that Tracer's a sex object because you happen to display their butt? And I'm like, why are you letting your daughter play an ultra-violent shooter video game? I don't know why. Maybe you'd think about that for a second. But dozens of people feigned defense. They virtue signaled to the universe so that no one would call them a racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, bigot, and Blizzard responded to that massive butthurt by removing the pose. They caved. This is not the only big piece of butthurt that revolves around Blizzard for the year, though. There was also Nostalrius. Blizzard got so butthurt over people wanting to play a version of the game that they were not currently creating that they shut down Nostalrius. They sent a cease and desist to this nice little vanilla server, I believe over in France, that was very, very popular. People were loving going on this server and playing the original version of World of Warcraft as it was 10 years ago, before there were any expansions. And it went bye-bye, unfortunately. So all these people who were enjoying playing the version of the game that they paid for and can no longer access. They paid for it 10 years ago. They have no way to access this game that they paid for. They, of course, got butthurt with Blizzard getting butthurt, and so there was a war of butthurt. and a lot of shots were fired. A lot of people said that they're never gonna play the retail version of WoW. Of course, there were people who weren't playing the retail version of WoW in the first place. However, I played the beta for Legion, and I said it was not good and it would not save World of Warcraft. And that was based on just, a couple of important things about the game, like the general experience that's not rating. And of course, I got a flood of butthurt fanboys drifting by the video to call me a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, and basically just call me a poopy head because they really, really love the current version of World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is one of those games. It's kind of like WoW fans are kind of like the Star Wars fans of video games. WoW is the only game that they play, and they get extremely butthurt whenever somebody doesn't like WoW or says something negative about WoW, has a criticism about WoW. Of course, in January 2017, I'm confident in saying that my prediction was pretty correct, and certainly we don't know what the sub numbers are because Blizzard has been so bad about keeping subscribers they stopped publishing them, but we've had a lot of content creators just sort of quitting the game because of how boring it is. And so that to me is like a good indicator that I didn't think Legion would save World of Warcraft, and it doesn't appear that it's saving World of Warcraft. There's less people interested in making things surrounding WoW, which means there's probably less people interested in just playing World of Warcraft in general. But that's how it is. There's a lot of butthurt about World of Warcraft. And it's not just World of Warcraft, there's also the Warcraft movie. And I didn't mention this in my video I made about it. People, obviously fans are butthurt that lots of critics didn't like this movie, that it wasn't a hit with critics, not that they expected it to be, and not that critics, have the final say in it. Because lots of fans really, really like this movie. But there were also a lot of Warcraft fans that got extremely upset about how bad the lore was, I guess, in the movie, and how different it was from what they experienced in the games. Like I said, Warcraft fans are kind of like Star Wars fans. They're going to get upset about lots of little things. You got to be careful about it. Now, of course, I said that I was going to believe the critics in regards to what my expectations with the movie were, and I wasn't going to see it in theaters because I could only really make time to see one movie in the summer. And that's the only movie that I went to see in the summer. It wasn't this one. Unfortunately, I made a really bad mistake, and I went and saw Sausage Party instead of the Warcraft movie. But, such is the plying of dear friends, that you will see movies that may not be the best thing or the best thing that you'd like. Now, another thing on this channel that drew an insane amount of butthurt, and you could try this for yourself. If you say that Metallica is not the best thing since sliced bread, you're going to have those butthurt Metallica fanboys come in, call you poopy head, racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic. Nah, they don't really go that way. They just call you poopy head because they like Metallica, and they don't understand why anyone else could possibly have a complaint about Metallica. Now, of course, this is one of those things. Like Metallica, there's this group of Metallica fans that kind of like Star Wars fans or like World of Warcraft fans. Metallica is the main thing that they listen to. It's the main thing that they're interested in, practicing on their guitar. It's like the surround, it's the nexus of their musical world. And they don't really understand why Metallica is not so beloved in sort of the metal community. But the reason that they're not super beloved in the metal community is that they just haven't done a lot of really good stuff in a long time. People like other things better than Metallica. Metallica's kind of like a metal gateway drug. It was one of the first metal bands I got into. And eventually you're going to move past Metallica, and you're going to be listening to other stuff. So the metal community tends to look at Metallica fans kind of like Star Wars fans, that they're kind of like the neckbeardy people. They're the people that aren't really into metal. They're not like true metalheads. And I'm not going to say that, but certainly if you want to collect a lot of butthurt for your collection, I'd recommend you make a video saying that anything is better than Metallica. So I said Megadeth is better than Metallica. Of course, this is before their new album came out this year, but I said that, and I gave a bunch of reasons, and people hated me for it, and they called me all sorts of poopy heads. Next thing, celebrities dying. Now, the butthurt surrounding the celebrities dying was not people getting upset that someone that they never knew and never cared about before they died happened to die, but that I said those words, and other people have said those words, and they get really butthurt that you would say, why are you upset that somebody you never knew and only watched in a couple of movies happened to bite the dust? Don't you care about your Don't you have other things in your real life that actually matter? And so the butthurt was really that other people were not as upset about celebrities dying as they were, as the original people were. So it's one of those things. Listen, guys, celebrities are not that big of a deal. They're just human beings. And if you've never spent time around someone who happened to be a little bit famous, you'll kind of realize, if you do, that they're just another person and that they have their own things going on with their life. And the truth is, you don't really know them through their work, right? And that's reality for 99% of people that you don't know on a personal level, is that you just are not going to know them. So when they die, you could say, oh, well, I guess I won't see Alan Rickman in any more movies, or I won't see Carrie Fisher in any more Star Wars movies. I guess that sucks, because I liked seeing her in the movies. But to feel a strong emotion about it, and then to have someone say, hey, I don't think it's natural or healthy for you to have that strong emotion. That's where the butthurt comes from. It's like, how dare you tell me not to have a strong emotion over somebody I never met? And I don't know, there was all these people talking about celebrities in 2016. I think the same number of people die every single year. They just let people focus a lot more on the celebrities that were dying. Now, I'm going to talk about something next here, Brexit. Because Brexit is the symbolic part of this peak butthurt. Just like a wave coming into shore, as the undertow begins to pull under it, the wave begins to break. And that's what Brexit was. It was those 5 magical words: racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot. All of a sudden, didn't seem to have the same power they had. People walked into the voting booth and they voted differently from all the virtue signaling out there in the media and on Facebook and in society. And people voted for Britain to leave the EU. And that was the first sign that our butthurt had peaked. The wave was breaking, and now the act of being butthurt, the vocalization of your butthurt, the vocalization of you being upset, and virtue signaling, using words like racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, was now not as effective as it used to be. People are becoming immune, and it really the wave finally broke with the election of Donald J. Trump and the weeks and months leading up to the election, because at this point, people walked into the voting booth and they voted exactly the way they wanted to. There's no need to virtue signal in a private voting booth, and so they didn't. They voted the way that they wanted to, and they stopped caring about what other people thought of them for supporting someone like Donald J. Trump, or any Republican for that matter. And all the words in the world couldn't stop them from choosing who they wanted to be president. And I will point something out to you to indicate this. Think about those 5 words that I've used throughout this video: racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot. Because they're 5 very important words. The 5 words that were used throughout 2016, basically to try to silence anyone who had an opposing, dissenting view of things that was different from sort of the mainstream media narrative of whatever was going on. And if you were to go back to your Facebook, if you were to go back to your Facebook feed the day after the election, or right after Donald Trump was elected, and you were to look at all the things people were posting, all the virtue signaling going on Facebook, all the unleashing of emotion into the nether of Facebook, as well as probably your personal interactions. It's not just like the impotence of Facebook, but probably your personal interactions, Twitter as well. I mean, they're all equally impotent as far as I'm concerned, but those are the 5 words that you were going to see. I can't believe we elected a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, maybe misogynist in there too, maybe a 6th word, misogynist. You're going to see those 5 or 6 words in every single post. It's almost as if people were programmed to think them and to say them. That's where that repetition thing comes in. I talked about the repetition technique, that when you repeat something enough, people will start to just believe it's true. And people will respond to a stimulus by putting out those 5 words: racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, maybe misogynist as well, right? So this is really symbolic, though, because as Donald Trump was elected, we had a big piece of evidence that those 5 words no longer held the power that they once held. That racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, bigot, misogynist, that these words all of a sudden moved from a camp of describing a real, sincere character element to basically just being poopy head. Like, there's different levels of ad hominem as far as I'm concerned. And, if you call someone a communist and they are a communist, that's that. But if you call someone a racist, now it's the same as calling someone poopy head. It no longer has its meaning. It no longer has its power. The virtue signaling and the butthurt isn't going to affect people's opinion as much as it used to. And I think that is like a profoundly positive thing. Although there's still people that are going to be crying out those same 5 words until they have new stuff that's able to sort of be placed in their mind. Racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, maybe misogynist as well. However, all that unleashing of butthurt, that is like, that's like the supernova explosion of the butthurt in the end of 2016. That's the end of the peak. But there's one major butthurt event that we still have to talk about. The biggest thing to happen in 2016 in terms of someone being upset over something happening, someone liking someone that they didn't like, was done by this man right here, Barack Hussein Obama. What did he do? Well, he was so butthurt from Donald Trump being elected that he ended diplomatic relations with Russia, the world's biggest nuclear power besides the United States. He kicked all the diplomats out. And how did Russia respond to that tremendous butthurt? Putin put on his deal with it glasses and refused to retaliate, thus making the actions of Barack Obama really what they were, which is a huge butthurt event. It was just him being upset about things not going his way and his party's way. After, losing the White House and losing all kinds of congressional seats. The butthurt Olympics would have been won by Mr. Obama this year, that's for sure. But all part of the same massive butthurt event, which was the huge explosion of virtue signaling by saying racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot, maybe misogynist as well, to describe all the people who disagreed with you. They're no longer people. They're not people with a different way of viewing the world. They're not people with a different perspective. They're not people that arrived to a different conclusion because of proper reasoning or anything like that. They are racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, misogynist, bigots. And the power of those words may be broken forever, and I certainly hope it is. I don't know what will replace them. But certainly once the power of virtue signaling is destroyed, then we no longer have to deal with that. Then we'll be able to really just talk about reality. We'll be able to talk about things like policy. And I made a joke a long time ago. It's like, why is there no discussion about policy? It's because it's irrelevant for most people. Before you can even begin to talk about policy, people have to believe in a pretty constrained vision where there's trade-offs, positives and negatives to any particular action that you take. And there's a huge number of people that's not even on their thought radar. That they're going to think entirely along those virtue lines. Racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, bigot. I appreciate you joining me on this butthurt journey. Let us celebrate the ending of this massive peak of virtue signaling, unnecessary offense, and pretentious upsetness that surrounds almost all the events that we see. And let's hope that we can begin to talk about reality again for at least a little while. The internet is still pretty a new thing, so we don't know exactly what these social cycles are really going to end up being as time goes on, and maybe we're going to see the pendulum swing back the other way towards more reasoned debate and discussion. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for joining me in 2016. I hope 2017 is going to be a really, really fun year as well. And I've seen a lot of growth in the channel in 2016. I've done a lot of great things in my life in 2016. Put out this nice little book, which I'd encourage you to think about going and buying from Amazon.com. Links in the description. That's my little plug for myself. I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. I have new stuff that will be coming out in 2016 that I'm very excited about. But more importantly, with the channel, I'm excited to talk about all the stuff that you want to see. And I promise there's a big backlog of videos that I'll be trying to make that some of you have requested over the last year that I'll be trying to get to. But please don't hesitate to tell me what you want to see and what you want to hear. I'll try not to be butthurt if you have a different opinion from mine. And the truth is, most people who are on this channel have a really, really reasoned position. They have a good reason for believing what they believe, even if it's not what I happen to agree with. But such is the nature of like processing through things to reach a conclusion. If you have a constrained vision like I have, what Tom Sowell called a constrained vision, you kind of see that it's not a war of extremes. There's a lot more sort of balance that goes into most of your decision making. But till then, please let the butthurt break upon you like waves upon the rocks, and don't let people get you down by calling you a racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, misogynist, bigot. You guys have a great day, and I will see you next year.